By comparison to the flesh and internal organs, the skin appears attractive, but examine it more closely. Skin is scaly, creased, and wrinkled. It exudes sweat and grease and offensive odors. We must scrub it daily just to keep it clean. How attractive is that? And the skin is firmly wedded to the underlying flesh, and thus inextricably linked to the loathsome interior. The more deeply wisdom probes, the more repulsive the body appears. From the skin on through to the bones, nothing is the least bit pleasing. Properly done, body contemplation is intense, and the mental effort is unrelenting. So, eventually, the mind begins to tire. It is then appropriate to stop and take a rest. When meditators who are engaged in full-scale body contemplation take a break, they return to the samadhi practice they have developed and maintained so assiduously. Re-entering the still peace and concentration of samadhi, they abide in total calm, where no thoughts or visualizations arise to disturb the citta. The burden of thinking and probing with wisdom is temporarily set aside so that the mind can completely relax, suspended in tranquility. Once the mind is satiated with samadhi, it withdraws on its own, feeling reinvigorated and refreshed, and ready to tackle the rigors of body contemplation again. In this way, samadhi supports the work of wisdom, making it more adept and incisive. Upon withdrawal from samadhi, the investigation of the body immediately begins anew. Each time you investigate with mindfulness and wisdom, the investigation should be carried out in the present moment. To be fully effective, each new investigation must be fresh and spontaneous. Don't allow them to become carbon copies of previous ones. An immediacy of being exclusively in the present moment must be maintained at all times. Forget whatever you may have learned. Forget what happened the last time you delved into the body's domain. Just focus your attention squarely on the present moment and investigate only from that vantage point. Ultimately, this is what it means to be mindful. Mindfulness fixes the mind in the present, allowing wisdom to focus sharply. Learned experience is stored as memory, and as such should be put aside. Otherwise, memory will masquerade as wisdom. This is the present imitating the past. If memory is permitted to replace the immediacy of the present moment, then genuine wisdom will not arise, so guard against this tendency in your practice. Keep probing and analyzing the nature of the body over and over again, using as many perspectives as your wisdom can devise, until you become thoroughly skilled in every conceivable aspect of body contemplation. True expertise in this practice produces sharp, clear insights. It penetrates directly to the essence of the body's natural existence in a way that transforms the meditator's view of the human body. A level of mastery can be reached, such that people's bodies instantly appear to break apart whenever you look at them. When wisdom attains total mastery of the practice, we see only flesh, sinews, and bones where a person once stood. The whole body is revealed as a viscous red mass of raw tissue. The skin will vanish in a flash, and wisdom will quickly penetrate the body's inner recesses. Whether it's a man or a woman, the skin, which is commonly considered so appealing, is simply ignored. Wisdom penetrates immediately inside, where a disgusting, repulsive mess of organs and bodily fluids fills every cavity. Wisdom is able to penetrate to the truth of the body with utmost clarity. The attractiveness of the body completely disappears. What then is there to be attached to? What is there to lust after? What in the body is worth clinging to? Where in this lump of raw flesh is the person? The kilesas have woven a web of deception concerning the body, fooling us with perceptions of human beauty and exciting us with lustful thoughts. The truth is that the object of that desire is a fake, a complete fraud. For in reality, when seen clearly with wisdom, the body by its very nature repels desire. When this delusion is exposed in the light of wisdom, the human body appears in all its gory detail as an appalling sight. Seen with absolute clarity, the mind shrinks from it instantly. The keys to success are persistence and perseverance. Always be diligent and alert when applying mindfulness and wisdom to the task. Don't be satisfied with partial success. Each time you contemplate the body, carry that investigation through to its logical conclusion, Then quickly re-establish an image of the body in your mind and begin the process all over again. As you delve deeper and deeper into the body's interior, the various parts will gradually begin to break up, fall apart, and disintegrate right before your eyes. Follow the process of disintegration and decay intently. Mindful of every detail, focus your wisdom on the unstable and impermanent nature of this form that the world views with such infatuation. Let your intuitive wisdom initiate the process of decay and see what happens. This is the next stage in body contemplation. Follow the natural conditions of decay as the body decomposes and returns to its original elemental state. Decay and destruction is the natural course of all organic life. Eventually, all things are reduced to their constituent elements, and those elements disperse. Let wisdom be the destroyer, imagining for the mind's eye the process of decay and decomposition. Concentrate on the disintegration of the flesh and other soft tissue, watching as it slowly decomposes until nothing remains but disjointed bones. Then reconstruct the body again and begin the investigation once more. Each time that intuitive wisdom lays waste to the body, mentally restore it to its former condition and start anew. This practice is an intense form of mental training, requiring a high degree of skill and mental fortitude. The rewards reflect the power and intensity of the effort made. The more proficient wisdom is, the brighter, clearer, and more powerful the mind becomes. The mind's clarity and strength appear to have no bounds. Its speed and agility are amazing. At this stage, meditators are motivated by a profound sense of urgency as they begin to realize the harm caused by attachment to the human form. The lurking danger is clearly seen. Where previously they grasped the body as something of supreme value, something to be admired and adored, they now see only a pile of rotting bone, and they are thoroughly repulsed. Through the power of wisdom, a dead, decaying body and a living, breathing body have become one and the same corpse. Not a shred of difference exists between them. You must investigate repeatedly, training the mind until you become highly proficient at using wisdom. Avoid any form of speculation or conjecture. Don't allow thoughts of what you should be doing or what the results might mean to encroach upon the investigation. Just concentrate on the truth of what wisdom reveals and let the truth speak for itself. Wisdom will know the correct path to follow and will understand clearly the truths that it uncovers. And when wisdom is fully convinced of the truth of any aspect of the body, it will naturally release its attachment to that aspect. No matter how intently it has pursued that investigation, the mind feels fully satisfied once the truth manifests itself with absolute certainty. When the truth of one facet of body contemplation is realized, there is nothing further to seek in that direction, so the mind moves on to examine another facet, and then another facet, until finally all doubts are eliminated. Striving in this way, probing deeper and deeper into the body's inherent nature with an intense focus on the present moment, a heightened state of awareness must be maintained, and the intensity of the effort eventually takes its toll. When fatigue sets in, experienced meditators know instinctively that the time is right to rest the mind in samadhi, so they drop all aspects of the investigation and concentrate solely on one object. Totally unburdening themselves, they enter into the cool, composed, rejuvenating peace of samadhi. In this way, samadhi is a separate practice altogether. No thoughts of any kind infringe upon the chitta's essential knowing nature, while it rests peacefully with single-minded concentration. With the chitta absorbed in total stillness, the body and the external world temporarily disappear from awareness. Once the chitta is satiated, it withdraws to normal consciousness on its own. Like a person who eats a full meal and takes a good rest, mindfulness and wisdom are refreshed and ready to return to work with renewed energy. Then, with purposeful resolve, the practice of samadhi is put aside and the practice of wisdom is re-established. In this way, samadhi is an outstanding complement to wisdom. The body is very important to consider. Most of our desires are bound up with it. Looking around us, we can see a world that is in the grips of sexual craving and frantic in its adoration of the human form. As meditators, we must face up to the challenges posed by our own sexuality, which stems from a deep-seated craving for sensual gratification. During meditation, this defilement is the most significant obstacle to our progress. The deeper we dig into body contemplation, the more evident this becomes. No other form of kilesa drags more on the mind, nor exerts greater power over the mind than the defilement of sexual craving. Since this craving is rooted in the human body, exposing its true nature will gradually loosen the mind's tenacious grasp on the body. Body contemplation is the best antidote for sexual attraction. Successful body practice is measured by a reduction in the mind's sexual desires. Step by step, wisdom unmasks the reality of the body, cutting off and destroying deep-rooted attachments in the process. This results in an increasingly free and open mental state. To fully understand their significance, meditators must experience these results for themselves. It would be counterproductive for me to try to describe them. That would only lead to fruitless speculation. These results arise exclusively within the meditator's mind and are unique to that person's character and temperament. Simply focus all your attention on the practical causes and let the results of that effort arise as they will. When they do, you will know them with undeniable clarity. This is a natural principle. When body contemplation reaches the stage where reason and result become fully integrated with wisdom, one becomes completely absorbed in these investigations both day and night. It's truly extraordinary. Wisdom moves through the body with such speed and agility, and displays such ingenuity in its contemplative techniques, that it seems to spin relentlessly in and out and around every part, every aspect of the body, delving into each nook and cranny to discover the truth. At this stage of the practice, wisdom begins to surface automatically, becoming truly habitual in manifesting itself. Because it's so quick and incisive, it can catch up with even the most subtle kilesas, and disable even the most indomitable ones. Wisdom at this level is extremely daring and adventurous. It is like a mountain torrent crashing through a narrow canyon. Nothing can deter its course. Wisdom bursts forth to meet every challenge to crave and to cling that is presented by the kilesas. Because its adversary is so tenacious, wisdom's battle with sexual craving resembles a full-scale war. For this reason, only a bold and uncompromising strategy will succeed. There is only one appropriate course of action, an all-out struggle, and the meditator will know this instinctively. When wisdom begins to master the body, it will constantly modify its investigative techniques so that it will not fall prey to the tricks of the kilesas. Wisdom will try to keep one step ahead of the kilesas, constantly looking for new openings and constantly adjusting its tactics, sometimes shifting emphasis, sometimes pursuing subtle variations in technique. As greater and greater proficiency is achieved, there comes a time when all attachment to one's own body and to that of others appears to have vanished. In truth, a lingering attachment still remains. It has only gone into hiding. It has not been totally eliminated. Take careful note of this. It may feel as though it is eliminated, but actually it is concealed from view by the power of the asubha practice. So don't be complacent. Keep upgrading your arsenal, mindfulness, wisdom, and diligence to meet the challenge. Mentally place the whole mass of body parts in front of you and focus on it intently. This is your body. What will happen to it? By now, wisdom is so swift and decisive that in no time at all it will break up and disintegrate before your eyes. Each time you spread the body out before you, whether it is your body or someone else's, wisdom will immediately begin to break it apart and destroy it. By now, this action has become habitual. In the end, when wisdom has achieved maximum proficiency at penetrating to the core of the body's repulsive nature, you must place the entire disgusting mess of flesh and blood and bones in front of you and ask yourself, from where does this feeling of revulsion emanate? What is the real source of this repulsiveness? Concentrate on the disgusting sight before you and see what happens. You are now closing in on the truth of the matter. At this crucial stage in asubha contemplation, you must not allow wisdom to break the body apart and destroy it. Fix the repulsive image clearly in your mind and watch closely to detect any movement in the repulsive feeling. You have evoked a feeling of revulsion for it. Where does that feeling originate? From where does it come? Who or what assumes that flesh, blood, and bones are disgusting? They are as they are, existing in their own natural state. Who is it that conjures up feelings of revulsion at their sight? Fix your attention on it. Where will the repulsiveness go? Wherever it moves, be prepared to follow its direction. The decisive phase of body contemplation has been reached. This is the point where the root cause of sexual craving is uprooted once and for all. As you focus exclusively on the repulsiveness evoked by the asapa contemplation, your revulsion of the image before you will slowly, gradually contract inward until it is fully absorbed by the mind. On its own, without any prompting, it will recede into the mind, returning to its source of origin. This is the decisive moment in the practice of body contemplation, the moment when a final verdict is reached about the relationship between the kilesa of sexual craving and its primary object, the physical body. When the mind's knowing presence fully absorbs the repulsiveness, internalizing the feeling of revulsion, a profound realization suddenly occurs. The mind itself produces feelings of revulsion. The mind itself produces feelings of attraction. The mind alone creates ugliness, and the mind alone creates beauty. These qualities do not really exist in the external physical world. The mind merely projects these attributes onto the objects it perceives, and then deceives itself into believing that they are beautiful or ugly, attractive or repulsive. In truth, the mind paints elaborate pictures all the time, pictures of oneself and pictures of the external world. It then falls for its own mental imagery, believing it to be real. At this point, the meditator understands the truth with absolute certainty. The mind itself generates repulsion and attraction. The previous focus of the investigation, the pile of flesh and blood and bones, has no inherent repulsiveness whatsoever. Intrinsically, the human body is neither disgusting nor pleasing. Instead, it is the mind that conjures up these feelings and then projects them onto the images that are in front of us. Once wisdom penetrates this deception with absolute clarity, the mind immediately relinquishes all external perceptions of beauty and ugliness, and turns inward to concentrate on the source of such notions. The mind itself is the perpetrator and the victim of these deceptions, the deceiver and the deceived. Only the mind, and nothing else, paints pictures of beauty and ugliness. So the asapa images that the meditator had been focusing on as separate and external objects are absorbed into the mind, where they merge with the revulsion created by the mind. Both are, in fact, one and the same thing. When this realization occurs, the mind lets go of external images, lets go of external forms, and in doing so lets go of sexual attraction. Sexual attraction is rooted in perceptions of the human body. When the real basis of these perceptions is exposed, it completely undermines their validity, and the external, as we know it, collapses, and our attachment to it ceases of its own accord. The defiling influence of sexual attraction, which has ridden roughshod over the mind since time immemorial, luring the mind to grasp at birth and so experience death continuously for aeons, this insidious craving is now powerless. The mind has now passed beyond its influence. It is now free. Please take this explanation as a guide, signaling the way forward, and not as a lesson to be memorized verbatim. I am always reluctant to be very specific, for fear that my students will take my words literally, and thus prejudge the nature of the truth that they are seeking. My words, taken as they are, will not enlighten you. Only mindful awareness, firmly anchored in the present moment, leads directly to the truth. Never presuppose the truth. Don't speculate or theorize about meditation practice, and don't mistakenly appropriate the knowledge you gain from reading this exposition, assuming that in doing so you understand the true nature of body and mind. Only clear and direct insight, guided by mindfulness, investigated with wisdom, and pursued with diligence, will penetrate that truth. At this level of practice, the body is completely internalized, and the power of sexual attraction is broken. To move forward to the next step, you must use the meditation technique that brought you to this point as a training exercise. The aim here is to train mindfulness and wisdom to be even quicker, sharper, and more precise in dealing with the very elusive and subtle nature of mental phenomena. Place the repulsive image of the body in front of you as usual and watch as it retracts into the mind. Then place the image back in front of you and start again, observing carefully how the image merges into the mind. Do this exercise repeatedly until the mind becomes very skilled at it. Once proficiency is achieved, the image will ebb away as soon as the mind focuses on it and merge with the knowing presence inside. Upon reaching the stage where one clearly understands the basic principles underlying sexual attraction, the next step is to train the mind with this purely mental exercise. Sexual attraction is no longer a problem. It has been cut off for good. There is no way that it can reappear as before. But although most of it has been eliminated, it has yet to be completely destroyed. A small portion still remains, like bits of dross or patches of rust adhering to the mind. At the stage where external perceptions merge totally with the chitta's own inner image, we can say that at least 50% of the investigation of Kama Raga has been successfully completed. The final, most advanced stage of the path of practice has been reached. The subtle portion of sensual desire that remains must be gradually eliminated, using the training exercise mentioned above. Relentlessly refining the contemplation and the mental absorption of asabha images will increase wisdom's skill level. As wisdom's proficiency strengthens, a higher and higher percentage of sexual attraction is totally destroyed. As wisdom's mastery gathers pace, so too does the speed at which the images recede into the mind. Eventually, as soon as one focuses on it, an image will rush into the mind, merge with it, and simply vanish. With constant practice, the speed at which this occurs will rapidly increase. At the highest level of skillfulness, the image will vanish the moment it's absorbed into the mind. This investigative technique is fundamental to progress in the final stage of the path, the stage where a vanquished Kama Raga is in full retreat. Soon, every vestige of it will be destroyed. Once the meditator attains the final stage, once the real source of ugliness and beauty is seen with crystal clarity, Kama Raga will never rear its head again. Its hold over the mind has been broken, and this condition is irreversible. Notwithstanding that, further work is still needed to destroy all traces of sensual desire. The task is time-consuming. This part of the investigation is complex and somewhat chaotic, with images of the body arising and vanishing at a furious pace. The most intense effort is required to root out every last vestige of Kama Raga, but the meditator knows instinctively what to do at this stage. So the investigation quickly develops its own natural momentum, without prompting from anyone. Mindfulness and wisdom are habitual. They work in unison with extraordinary speed and agility. By the time that these investigations reach their denouement, no sooner does an image of the body appear than it vanishes instantly. It doesn't matter whether these images merge into the chitta or not. Their appearance and disappearance is all that is known. Arising and passing images happen so quickly that perceptions of external and internal are no longer relevant. In the end, images flutter on and off, appearing and disappearing from awareness so rapidly that their forms are no longer sustainable. After each disappearance, the chitta experiences a profound emptiness. Emptiness of imagery, emptiness of forms. An extremely refined awareness stands out within the chitta. As each new image flashes on and disappears, the mind feels the resulting emptiness more profoundly. Due to its subtle and manifest strength at this stage, the chitta's knowing nature completely dominates. Finally, images created in the mind cease to appear altogether. Only emptiness remains. In this void, the chitta's essential knowing nature prevails, exclusively and incomparably. With the cessation of all body images created by the mind comes the total annihilation of Kama Raga. Contemplation of the body has reached closure. Finally realizing that all form is intrinsically empty, empty of personality, empty of distinctive qualities such as beauty and ugliness, the meditator sees the immense harm caused by Kama Raga. This ruinous defilement spreads its noxious poison everywhere. It corrodes human relationships and agitates the whole world, distorting people's thoughts and emotions, causing anxiety, restlessness, and constant discontent. Nothing else has such a disquieting effect on people's lives. It is the most destructive force on earth. When Kama Raga is totally eliminated, the entire world appears empty. The force that ignites fires which consume people's hearts and fans flames that ravage human society is vanquished and buried. The fire of sexual attraction is extinguished for good. Nothing remains to torment the heart. With Kama Raga quenched, Nibbana appears imminent and close at hand. Kama Raga conceals everything, blinding us to all aspects of the truth. Thus, when Kama Raga is finally destroyed, we have an unobstructed view of Magga, Phala, and Nibbana. They are now well within reach.